Looks a bit untidy out there. Well, it's raining. It's Sunday the 11th of June 2023. I've still got battery, so I shall continue out of The Winged Pharaoh, written by Joan Grant, a far memory of Sakita, Sakita. I don't know, must be 10,000 years ago. It was before the flood. She was a pharaoh in those days, and they've just won a battle with the Zumas. Chapter 5, The Homecoming. News of the battle had been given forth from all the temples, and as we sailed downriver, the people crowded the banks to see the return of Pharaoh and the royal army in victory. We reached Mena Atatis on the 4th day. On the quay stood my Chikia, dressed as a warrior prince and holding the flail, which I had put in her hands to lighten the moment when I had left her. Grave as a vizier, she held out the flail to me and said, "While you have been gone, I have kept your city safe, and I have held the flail truly for you. Now it's yours again, and I need no longer be so very good." And so, casting her dignity aside, she flung herself and her arms around me. She came with me in my litter to the palace, and on the way she must hear all about the battle. She questioned me on every detail, and sighed to think she had not seen me my spare kill Zernak. "When can we have the banquet? I shall stay up all night, and no one can send me to bed because you promised." And I told her we would wait for Nea's return, which I expected within 2 days. Chikia said, "When you were away, I behaved just like you. When anyone argued with me, I showed them the flail and said you had put it in my hands, and so all must obey me. And every morning I asked the gods tremendously hard to look after you and let you win very quickly. And I asked them 4 and 5 and 6 times a day, so they couldn't possibly forget. Do you think if I had asked oftener, you wouldn't have been wounded? Was it a very hurting arrow?" And I told her, "It didn't hurt any more than cutting your knee does when you fall down in the middle of an exciting game. And if you hadn't asked the gods so very hard, the arrow might have hit me somewhere it really mattered." First I thought I would dress like a queen and have malachite on my eyes and sweeping eyebrows, and then I thought, as you were being a king, I would be a prince, and I wouldn't dress myself or let anybody else do it until they brought me princely clothes. And I commanded that all should call me Den. I took Nate out for all of his walks and practiced with my bow and throwing spear until Renata had to say that I was as good as a boy of twice my age. And Silvermane has had a little foal, and it's a mare. Nea promised he would give it to me, and she is to have a meadow of her own, with trees and a house thatched from the sun. And mother, while I was out, I met a little girl who had fallen down and tore her only dress. As I was prince, I didn't like girls' clothes, so I gave 12 of my tunics to her. You don't mind?" Next, I wasn't very pleased, but I didn't listen to her while I held the flail. And when they sent from the temple to tell of your victory, I went to the market and told all the merchants to give everything on their stalls to the people and to take no exchange for it, but to come to the palace, and I would give them twice the value of all they had given away. I told Rehatap. He looked surprised, so I said, "It is the royal word." So he did it, and everyone was pleased. "Will you promise to tell Nea, the first moment you see him, that he mustn't call me Chikia anymore, but always Den?" When I reached the palace, the hot south wind was stirring the brilliant folds of the flags, which flew from triumphal masts that columned the full length of the white painted walls, and on the pylon rested in deep groves like a rack of spears. Serta said that I must rest in my room for 3 days, for the muscle of my arm was deeply torn, and unless it was kept still, the flesh would not heal without a scar. It was good at last to put off my warrior dress and to lie in hot water, strewn with orange flowers, to have my body soothed with healing oils and feel the weariness seeping from my bones. The linen of my bed was smooth and cool, yet my body was too tired to sleep. So I sent for Ma'ata, who with her young gentle fingers soothed the muscles of my head and neck, until under her kind hands my body grew quiet and let my spirit go. Chapter 6. Nea's Return. When Nea reached the palace early next day, he came straight to my room. His brow was lined with the burden of his thoughts, and I saw that he was weary from swift travelling. Before I would talk of all that had befallen us, I sent for broth and wine and made him eat. He said, I was on a leopard hunt 2 days northwest of Knakish when you appeared to me in a dream. You said to me, return, journey swiftly down river, Kham is in danger. Then you put your thumb upon my forehead and said, remember. When I woke, I set off northeast and reached the river on the morning of the next day. I took a fast riverboat of 30 oars which belonged to a noble and travelled downstream, journeying night and day with relays of towers of rowers. I knew that the seer of the garrison would have received news of the danger, and the captain of captains would have already started north, so there was no need for me to send a messenger to Nakaish to warn them. Nakish. At midnight on the third day I reached Nekhat-An, where they told me that it was the Zumas that threatened us, and that at dawn you would give battle with them in the amphitheatre of grain. Never again will I journey without a seer, for not until we came in sight of Abidwa and saw the flags did I know that we had won a victory. The vizier came out to meet me with the news that the Zumas had been destroyed and that the southern garrison had turned back from Nekhat-An. When I reached the amphitheatre of grains, the bodies of their dead were still smouldering. The stallions of Zemak were pastured on the plain, and my patience outpaced the rowers' arms. So I took the king's chariot and the swiftest of his horses, and in 30 hours I reached the royal city, only halting when my horses must be rested. Then I told him the story of the 4 days when Kham was balanced in Tahuti's scales. And when I told him how our father had returned to lead me, Nea said, I thought my army would fight leaderless, but I should have known that Ata-Et left 2 sons, 2 pharaohs, whose chariots could lead the van of spears. Never was a man so blessed in his wife, my sister, my brother, Pharaoh, and Prince of Anubis. Wow, the next chapter is chapter 7, Belshazzar. Oh yeah, the baddie. Have a happy Sunday.